Is this anybody's first session of the day, or have you been coming all day? What are we at? All day. Woohoo! Okay, thank you, diehards. And of course, there's some culinary action out front as well, which that you shouldn't miss. But I'm glad that you decided to come to this one. Welcome. My name's Ligaya Figueras. I'm the former dining editor for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Retired earlier this week. Woohoo! Woohoo! Wow. All right. Yes. Yes, I know. Well, were you listening to some earlier?
No.
Oh, well, let me tell you. I don't want to completely repeat every time, but for anybody who wasn't listening, yes, I started at the AJC 10 years ago in September. The book festival was the first thing that I did the very next morning after having moved here. Okay. Met a whole lot of people, have moderated through the years, and now I get to finish my career with the AJC doing this.
That's wonderful.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yay. Thank you. And and we're also celebrating the milestone 20th anniversary of the Decatur Book Festival itself too. So preeminent book festival. Yes. So we're glad you guys came out today, and yay for Decatur Book Festival. Okay, so let's get started. This is a 45-minute session. We're going to go ahead and take questions throughout this. I'm very excited for this because we're making drinks. I really want one, but I still have one more panel to go after this, you know? Anyway, so this is fun. We're shaking it up a little bit. Instead of cooking, we're going to mix it up. But anyway, you can ask questions throughout, and at the very end, we'll leave about 5 minutes for some Q&A. So with that, let's get started. Belinda Smith-Sullivan is a chef, author, spice entrepreneur, and commercially rated pilot, which is something that we are going to talk about. Yes, known for her Southern-inspired cookbooks and culinary expertise. Born in Chicago to parents from Mississippi, Belinda spent summers with her sharecropper grandparents where she developed a deep appreciation for Southern cooking, especially canning and baking with peaches. Mm-hmm. Peaches, yum. Her early career included roles as a stewardess, pilot, flight instructor, and Coca-Cola executive with international assignments in France, Kenya, and South Africa. Am I right there?
Yeah.
Okay. After retiring to Trenton, South Carolina, she pursued her passion for cooking by enrolling at Johnson & Wales University. So she has her culinary degree. She became a personal chef, and then she began creating her spice blends. And that led to her own line of spices. And I kind of scolded her because she didn't bring them to show today. You're not a very good marketer. Anyway, Chef Belinda is the name of the blend. So she's the author of several cookbooks, as you see here. She contributes monthly to South Carolina Living magazine, features on their website with monthly how-to videos. She's a member of numerous culinary organizations, all the cool cats organizations, Southern Foodways Alliance, the IACP, International Food and Wine Travel Association, and American Culinary Federation. And she's joining us today. She lives in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and as soon as we're done here, she's going to be heading back on a plane. So thank you for taking the time to come. Everybody, please welcome Belinda Smith-Sullivan. And the reason we're here is really to talk about this book.
Yep.
So before we get really deep into my own questions, you tell us what's going on in your world. You've got 1, 2, 3 cookbooks. What are your other projects that you're working on right now?
Well, I just completed this book, Cocktail Southern Style, actually hit the market in March. Okay. So I've just been making the rounds, doing book signings. I just did the Winston-Salem Bookmarks Book Festival last week. Okay. 2 nights ago, I was on St. Simon's Island, where I was the guest chef at Firebox, which is their annual barbecue festival.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what I've been keeping myself busy with. I'm working on another project that I can't divulge. But another proposal is in the works. Okay. Every time I finish a cookbook, I say, okay, this is the last. and then as soon as it comes out, I get another idea. So I am working on
Some people don't really realize what a labor of love the cookbook. It's not just, you can't have an error in a cookbook. Your recipe might just not work, and nobody wants to buy a cookbook with recipes that don't work. I mean, it is. And how do you pick your favorite child, too?
People are always asking me, what's your favorite book? I say, now I don't have children, but I ask them, do you have children? They say, yes. I say, which is your favorite? I don't have a favorite. Well, I can't either.
Yeah.
Now, I'm partial to one, only because it was my first, just Peachy. And it's because it took me 7 years to sell that concept to a publisher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And as they say, I couldn't get arrested with that concept. Everybody kept saying, why would anybody want a cookbook about peaches? People just want to eat them. I said, well, I think that there are other applications. Yeah, I like to eat them too. No one loves peaches more than I do. But I just felt that there were other applications that you could, use. And so I just kept going. I finally got an agent who would listen to me. And then she scheduled an appointment with the publisher. And I just knew that I had blown the thing completely. It was at an IACP conference, and my agent was there, and she said, I've scheduled an appointment with a publisher who wants to talk to you about your concept, and you're meeting at 10 a.m. in the morning. So 10 a.m. in the morning, I'm there sharp to talk with her, and she said, I like peaches. She says, I'm going to take a chance on you. She said, but I want to know, what is your concept? I'm like, concept? What does she mean by that? I said, a book. And she said, okay, and she's taking notes. I said, and pictures and some recipes. She goes, okay, I got it. Book, pictures, recipes. Anything else? I said, oh, I love square books. Square. She says, okay, all right, well, it was nice meeting you. I'll be in touch. 10:30 in the morning now. I got up, I walked out. I knew I'd blown that interview. I went straight to the bar and ordered a drink. 10:30 in the morning in New York, I'm the only one sitting at the bar having a drink. And I heard from her, when 2 months passed by, I figured, okay, I knew I blew that. I thought back about the interview. I said, yeah, I blew that. I wouldn't publish me either. Well, it's my birthday, and I'm here in Atlanta, shopping. My husband says, go shopping on for your birthday. Go to Atlanta, buy anything you want, but don't go over X amount. So here I am, credit cards in hand. I spend the whole day at Phipps and what's the other one? Lenox Mall. The whole day. Didn't spend a dime, couldn't find anything. So I go to my hotel, which is the Westin, and I'm checking in, and the phone rings. And it's my agent, and she says, I have some good news for you, call me back. So I called her back, and she said, okay, are you sitting down? Yeah, because I had gone over to the bar to get a drink, right? Because I couldn't spend money any other way, so I went and I got a drink at the bar. And she said, okay, I've got good news and I've got bad news. I said, okay, well, give me the good news first, because I can use some good news. She said, the publisher that you had the meeting with, they want your book. Really? This is what I'm thinking to myself. I said, what's wrong with them? Okay, so I said, all right, what's the bad news? She said, I have 3 more offers that are coming in by the close of business today. So I went from couldn't get anyone interested in my book to I received 4 offers in one day for my proposal.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
And then did you go with the one that initially?
Yes, I did. Because I felt so bad. Again, it wasn't the best offer, but I went with her because I thought, wow, they say dance with the one that brung you. Mm-hmm. And she was interested enough to suffer through that interview with me, and she still, liked the concept. Yeah. So I went with them.
That's amazing.
They're the publisher of all of my books.
Throughout today, we have had people with really unique culinary journeys, I'm going to call them. Mm-hmm. And even before they got into the culinary arts, they were doing other things. And you certainly fit this scenario. Yeah. So can you walk us through how you got to even that point of, hey, I want to do a cookbook?
Actually, I was with the Coca-Cola Company. I was the global training manager for the continent of Africa, based in Johannesburg. And maybe 2 months on the ground, Coca-Cola went through and I love saying this, a strategic organizational realignment, which meant they got a new CEO. And of course, when new CEOs come in, they do their own thing. And I was attached to the Learning Consortium, which is sort of like Coca-Cola University. And that was the first thing that the new CEO thought that Coca-Cola could do away with. So they honored my contract, which was 2 years in South Africa, but when I repatriated, which meant when I came back to the US, they retired me. And they said, we will pay for your rehabilitation. So I'm thinking, I'm not an alcoholic. What do they mean by that? Do they, have they been following me around, see where I hang out? So they said, no, we'll pay for you to do, whatever you want to do. You think about it and let us know. So I went home and I moped around for 3 or 4 months, and my husband finally said, ever since I've known you, you said that if you had to do it all over again, you'd become a chef. So just stop sulking around and go to culinary school already. I picked up the phone, I called Johnson & Wales, and they said, we just closed our admissions for this year. Try again next year. I said, you don't understand, I don't have another year. I have to go now. So the officer or the administrator said, okay, if you can get your application into me by the end of business today, we'll let you know tomorrow. And I did, and the next morning they called, they said, you're in. Oh. So I had applied for baking and pastry, but they only had culinary available. So I said, I'll take whatever you have. I'm glad I went the culinary route, but baking is still my passion.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's how I
and then
switched careers. And it's interesting because I was what they call a non-traditional student, which I found out that meant I was old. So, and just one more thing, I'll never forget, the dean of students called me into his office one day. He said, shut the door. Shut the door. I sat down. I'm thinking, what did I do? I think I'm a model student. He said, and I'm gonna have to change this up a little bit because we are in a church. He said, what the heck are you doing here? I said, I'm learning how to be a chef. He said, why? He says, at your age, you're not gonna work in anyone's kitchen. And I said, no, sir. I said, I'm gonna write cookbooks. And he laughed. He says, if it was that easy, we'd all have one. Well, last year, one of my instructors invited me back to Johnson & Wales. So I got my 3 cookbooks in my arm, and I go into the dean of students' office. And I said, do you remember me? He said, yeah, I do. I said, remember you told me that writing cookbooks, if it was gonna be that easy, that you'd have one? I said, here are my cookbooks. He said, close the door behind you on your way out.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think I insulted him.
And let's put aside the culinary for a second. Can you quickly tell us about being a pilot? That's fascinating to me too. Like, do you still have a license?
Yeah. My first job out of college, I was and I always use this word because it's important, I was a stewardess. Now, most of you here don't know what the term stewardess means because you hear flight attendant when you fly. But we were called stewardesses back then when I flew. And I had the opportunity to fly one evening with a gentleman by the name of Captain David Harris. Captain David Harris was the first African-American pilot to fly for the major airlines. And I had the opportunity, I walked up in the cockpit that night to see what the guys wanted for coffee, and he turned around and I almost passed out. First of all, he was just that good looking. And I thought to myself, I said, this is the man I'm going to marry. But as fate would have it, there was already a Mrs. Captain Harris. So, but I had the opportunity to fly with him on a lot of trips, and I just kept thinking, if he can do it, I can do it. So as the years would pass, several of them, and woke up one morning on my birthday, and my husband said, what would you like for your birthday? I said, flying lessons. So he took me to the airport. You could buy these, what they call discovery flights. So he bought me a discovery flight, thinking that this was going to discourage me. So the pilot took me. I was scared to death. He kept saying, here, you take the wheel. I said, no, you're doing a good job. So then we came down, and we landed, and my husband walked over to him, and he said, how did she do? Kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, hope we're done with this. And I looked at the guy, and he was about to say, well, and I said, when can I come back? And he said, you want to? I said, yeah, I want to come back. I had to prove my husband wrong. Well, when I came back for the second lesson, he had switched me over to a female flight instructor. Best thing he could have done. So I became a pilot, got my private, and then I said, well, if I'm going to be a responsible pilot, I've got to get an instrument rating. Got that. I said, for precision's sake, I need to get a commercial rating. So I did that. So I said, those twin engines, they really go faster. So I got my multi-engine rating. And then I said, well, I felt all dressed up with no place to go. So my flight instructor said, why don't you become a flight instructor? So I did. So I got my flight instructor rating. Wow. So that's how in order to be an instructor, you have to have a commercial rating. So that's how I'm a commercially rated pilot.
That's amazing. Do you still fly?
Sure. I don't teach anymore. I did teach until I discovered that all students think that their job is to kill the flight instructor. So I said, I better not teach anymore. So I stopped teaching. But I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So now let's shift. You have 3 cookbooks, and now this 4th one, you've really pivoted, and we are talking drinks. So tell us a little bit about why you decided it was time to write one on Southern cocktails.
Well, the wonderful world of publishing is quite interesting, and especially when it comes to cookbooks. Remember I said you write a proposal and you submit it to the publisher? You seldom get to write the book that you proposed. This book was supposed to be about Southern hospitality. I wanted to emphasize what it's like to live and entertain in the South specifically. The publisher sat on it for about 1.5 years, and they came back and they said, we're not going to publish that book. And I said, really? I've only been waiting for 1.5 years. They said, but we are interested in the cocktail aspect of it. So that's how it turned from Southern Gatherings, which was the working name I was working with initially, to Cocktail Southern Style.
But there is a fair amount of the entertaining portion, and very much Southern, that you do weave into this.
Yeah, I try to weave it in, there as much as I could, in keeping with their concept.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where are you originally from? Chicago?
Yes, I'm from Chicago.
Okay, so Midwest, so St. Louis. What do you think of when it comes to Southern drinking, let's say, or like rituals, maybe? How do you see that as unique down here, as opposed to, say, what we might?
I have to be very careful talking about this because in the time that I've spent in the South, which I think is just most of my adult life. I spent 18 years in Texas, 20 years in South Carolina, and now I'm in North Carolina. And most Southerners would have you think that they don't drink, when in fact, cocktails originated in the South. I think Southerners drink probably more than the rest of the country. But yeah, the cocktails, and especially New Orleans, the majority of the cocktails originated in New Orleans, or derivatives thereof. Again, you can trace them back to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So, but I find that Southerners really enjoy drinking, and mostly cocktails. In the North, like New York or Illinois or Chicago or even St. Louis, you go out for a drink and it's usually a bourbon in this or a scotch in that, mm-hmm. or a martini, a vodka martini. But cocktails, Southerners really love and enjoy their cocktails.
So tell us about the approach here. Did you were you consulting? Did you go around to various bars? What was your research like for this?
Yes.
Nice. That's pretty fun research, I suppose.
Well, if you if you read the introduction, I start off with the first line, I love bars. And I do. I love, I'm not even going to lie about that, even though we're in a church. But yeah, I did a lot of research. Now, I'm not a bartender, and I don't, I can't do the things that bartenders do. And I wrote this book from a novice to novices, for someone who wants to demystify the idea of making a cocktail. For instance, if I went to your home, I'd say, make me a martini. You'd probably go, oh, I don't know how to do that. Even though, in truth, the martini is the easiest of all cocktails to make. There's 2 ingredients. But so, not a bartender, but I wrote it again because I wanted to learn more about making cocktails myself, because I enjoy cocktails. And to pass that on to the other novices out there, so that, again, they'll be less intimidated when making them.
Right.
Yeah, but so I did. I went to a lot of bars. I talked to a lot of bartenders. I even got a few guest recipes in here from bartenders. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were some of your discoveries, I should say?
Well, that it is a lot easier than you think, that I could make these cocktails that I didn't in the beginning think I could make, and that they're so good. Yeah, they're, wow, so good. My husband works out of the country, and with the time difference that this between where he is and where we live in North Carolina, he would call home every morning between 9:30, 10 o'clock, and for months he'd call home, what are you doing? I said, I'm having a cocktail. And he says, Belinda, it's only 9 in the morning. I said, I'm working. So I thought, wow, at one point, I love my job. I can get up at 8 in the morning and start drinking. What's not to love about this? So I've already proposed books 2, 3, and 4 to the publisher. I said, because there are so many cocktails, so little time.
When you were, I imagine you had taste testers for this. Did you have folks that came over and try them out?
Well, besides me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone was what do you call it, volunteering.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So did that turn into its own little Southern party at times? Like, come on, let me make a batch of this for everybody and let hear.
No, I didn't have the parties like that, but 1 or 2 friends would come over. Well, again, like my husband, what are you doing? Making cocktails. Oh, we'll be right over. Mm-hmm. So.
If I was stocking it for a home bar, and now it's one that's geared for a Southern style bar, what do you think of as the essential equipment that I want, and also the base, I'm going to say maybe base spirits or mixers or that kind of thing? What to you are the key components?
It's based on what you like, actually. For instance, I have after writing this book, I have a really nice bar, but I don't have scotch on it, because I don't drink scotch. I don't know anyone who drinks scotch. So I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't spend money on that. But I have just about everything else. So I'd just say start with the basic liqueurs, which is maybe a bourbon, a vodka, a gin, maybe 2 or 3 others. Stock those items. Get mixers to go with them. There are bitters out there that you can purchase. And then mixers like club soda, tonic, ginger ale, some other things like the olives, maraschino cherries, just those basic things that will make the cocktails that you like or your friends like, and just keep those things stocked. And then you can add as you go along. You may want to add a cognac. You may want to add something that we're using here today, Campari, which is an Italian liqueur, and some champagne. Just, again, start little, start with what you like, put that on your bar, and then think about your friends that you'd like to have, that you have over most of the time. What do they like? What are their preferences? And just start to stock those things, and before you know it, you have a full-blown bar.
Right. Did you start going down the rabbit hole with glassware? Vintage glassware and There's some etched pretty stuff or
I
whatever.
am a glassware snob now. You know, before I just pour everything into even wine, into a water.
A mug.
A water or a
Coffee mug.
Or whatever I have. But now, yeah, there is the right glass that you have to have, you know, to go with certain drinks. Like there's, you know, your highball glasses, your old-fashioned glasses, which are the short ones. You know, you have your white wine, your red wine, and then an all-purpose wine glass. And then you have flutes for your Prosecco or your champagne. So yeah, use especially if you're entertaining, it makes a really big difference. The type of.
So what are you wanting to make today?
So today I'm going to make remember I said this book was written by a novice for the novice. So with that said, I think that if you're going to entertain, if you like to entertain, you're going to entertain a lot, have your house cocktail that you're going to make. So if someone comes over, you offer them your favorite cocktail that you perfected by now because you've made it 5 or 6 times and you know it's going to taste good and you're comfortable with entertaining. This is one that's so easy to make, and I love making it. I love serving it. It tastes good. It's made with Campari. Campari is an Italian liqueur, similar to but different from Aperol, which you may have heard of Aperol. They're both, again, aperitifs. The Campari, though, is more on the savory side, more herbal. The Aperol is more fruity. So this one is stronger, has a stronger alcohol content, and it stands up against the Prosecco very, very well. So it's just easy. It's 3 ingredients. It's the Campari, it's the Prosecco, and a little bit of club soda, and we're going to top it off with just a lime slice. So
has this one become your house cocktail? Is this your house cocktail?
No, my house cocktail is in the book. It's called an aviation.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're getting lots of nods.
And the color is wonderful, isn't it? It has a very nice, almost like lavender color, but it's made with something called creme de violette, and you use pomegranate liqueur with it. It's very, very tasty. So that's aviation, and I chose that mostly because it ties in with my my flying
it's very
thing.
much
Yeah.
you. Mm-hmm.
And it's good. So this one we're going to. Oops. Put a little bit more. Okay. So, and this is easy to remember. You don't have to look it up in the book. 3, 2, 1, or 1, 2, 3, and then flip it. It's going to be 3 ounces of the Prosecco, 2 ounces of the Campari, and just a splash or 1 ounce of the Canada Dry. Now, you could use a jigger. I don't do that. Just, as Rachel Ray would say, eyeball it. 3 ounces of the Prosecco, 2 ounces of the Campari, and then 1 ounce or a splash of the club soda. You could even leave this out if that's your preference, but try it this way first. I'm going to just stir it a little bit. Now, how easy is that? 1, 2, 3. You have these ingredients. You ready? Would you like to try it? I'm in church. I'm not going to.
If I start, I won't. I got one more session to go. I think you could have a raffle, though, if you.
But yeah, but have a signature cocktail that's your favorite. It could be anything. But just learn how to make it very, very well, and then offer it to your guests. Don't wait for them to say, you know, so what's the first thing you do when someone comes to your house? Would you like a drink? What do you want? Just say, hey, I have this wonderful cocktail for you to try. Introduce them to something. Everybody likes learning something new or trying something new. Yeah. If I come to your house, I'm sorry, it's a martini, okay? Vodka martini.
Shaken or stirred?
stirred, never shaken. It bruises the vodka. Right, Kevin?
Did you go deep into ice? Because ice is an ingredient. It's the most important ingredient in a cocktail.
Yes.
And whether even you're going to serve it with ice or not, but in terms of chilling and whatnot, or the shaking or whatever, did you consider like the kinds of ice that, like, there's crappy ice out there. Some of the stuff from your own, refrigerator is junky.
Yeah.
Did you start doing the ice discovery?
I do have the ice forms that make the big round balls and the square ones, and I like them because they don't melt as fast. The ice, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because the wrong kind of ice will melt too soon in your drink, and it changes the whole dynamics of the drink. So you want an ice that's going to hold up under the liqueur, given the fact that it's probably going to take you 20 minutes, me 5, to finish a cocktail. But most people will just kind of have them and just sip on them. Not me, that first one's going down.
And how about things like garnishes? Tips on those?
Yeah, always. It's like when you're cooking. Now, wearing my chef's hat, and this is important because one thing that a chef will always do, and you'll notice when you go to a nice restaurant, they're always going to garnish your food. It's the same thing with a drink. The garnish is important, whether it be an orange slice or a twist of lemon, if it's a martini, olive, and none of that blue cheese stuff, olive. Don't serve me that if I come to your house. You give me a martini. Nice olive is just plain. Just plain is good. Yeah, but always try to have a garnish if you can. In a lot of bars now, you'll see they use things like rosemary or lavender. It's important. I mean, it's a wow factor with the cocktail. Why do you think they sell so many of those little drinks with the paper umbrellas in them when you go to Bermuda or, the Caribbean? Because people like that. It's the eye appeal. Remember, you eat with your eyes first, you drink with your eyes.
Right. Well, you also get the aroma, the fragrance on your nose, so
Yeah.
there's like that next part. Are there other things? I'm glad that you brought up your culinary background. Are there any other things that you did because of the influence of your culinary training? For example, did you change or tweak any traditional recipes, maybe make them more savory or give them more of a eye pop or something like that?
Are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about in this. Where else did you bring your culinary background to a book on cocktails?
I guess I did. There were some cocktails that maybe called for one ingredient, and I may have changed it up and used a different ingredient but you can do that more in culinary than you can. A cocktail is a cocktail. And you have to follow the basic recipe somehow. But I would maybe, for instance, if I was going to make this at my house instead of the club soda, there's a sparkling water called Topo Chico. Makes all the difference in the world. Yeah. And I learned that again from hanging out in bars, talking to bartenders. If you couldn't use that, what else would you use? What would you switch it out for? How can you make it better? And that's the type of things I did while trying to stay true to the recipe.
So which cities did you go to and chat with the bartenders? Where did your journey take you?
Name one that I did. Just everywhere along the southeast. I live in Winston-Salem. I think I've hit every bar there. Charlotte. Go to Columbia a lot. Raleigh, Durham, Asheville, Greenville. I traveled around a lot, visiting different times. Going to bars where a martini might cost me $40, or one where I could maybe get it for $6.50. A dive. Yeah.
So for those of us who want to be headed, like follow in your footsteps, what were some of the outstanding bars that you would suggest that we visit?
Oh, goodness.
And at least in your hometown, if you know all the bars in Winston-Salem.
There's this little dive of a bar called the Silver Moon. Oh my goodness. It's a little bit bigger than this than this table here. You go in, it's really long and thin and long, and they have a bar that's extremely long and just one set of bar stools along, and then there's just a little place in the back for you to walk past. So it's a real dive, but they have the absolute best drinks, and they have a menu with about 30 cocktails on it. It's what do you call it, a chalkboard, and they list all the cocktails, their signature cocktails, and they've got about 30 on there. And it's the kind of place that you wouldn't expect to find that kind of variety in. You probably wouldn't even go in there, because from the outside it just looks, again, like a dive, just a dive bar. But they're really sophisticated.
Oh, there we're putting the. Is this what you're talking about?
That's it.
Okay.
What, you don't see me in there, do you?
Okay, Silver Moon.
So that's a. Now, on the other hand, there is a restaurant that I like to go to whenever my husband's in the country, in Charlotte, called the Palm. And there are several Palm restaurants throughout the United States.
Yeah, there's one here in Atlanta.
Okay, we like going to the one in Charlotte. Their bartender is just absolutely wonderful there. He actually gave me a recipe that's in the book. His name is Andrew at the Palm. And they have wonderful, wonderful selection of cocktails there as well.
Nice, nice. I did want to shift gears to, because you're such a businesswoman, and while you didn't bring your spices here, how did you get into the spice business?
Okay, when I got out of culinary school, before I got my cookbook, because remember it was going to be hard, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? So I said, well, I better make money somehow. I started my personal chef service. And that means going to other people's homes and making meals for them. Well, I would carry just cases and cases and cases of herbs and spices. And I said, wait a minute, I'm a chef. I know that there are only so many flavor profiles. So I started making these little miniature spice blends for myself that I would take with me, because I knew that no matter what I was going to be preparing, I could use these basic spice blends on there. And people started asking me for them. What did you put on that? Well, it's my own stash, so to speak. Well, I want it. And enough people kept asking me for them. So I started with 4 spice blends. Now I have, I think, 11 flavors.
Wow.
to the line.
And where can we find those?
Amazon.
You don't have a website?
Yeah, well, if you go through my website, chefbelinda.com, it'll direct you, and you click on any of the spices, they'll direct you to Amazon, where you can purchase them.
Awesome. I should open it up to all of you. Does anybody have questions?
Hi, Betty.
Something that's always confused me about cocktails is when it's before a dinner. Because a sweet cocktail with some appetizers kind of fills me up. And then, it doesn't match, like a savory dinner with wine and all of that, and you've got the wines paired with the dinner. Cocktails at Christmas time with some appetizers, that feels like one whole thing. But how to match it with the dinner, I've never really mastered or really understood that.
Okay. Remember I said I'm not a bartender, but there are sweet cocktails, a daiquiri. Yes, you're not going to serve that before dinner. But this is a savory cocktail, and this you could very well serve before dinner. And it would be very nice with your, what I call bites, with your appetizer and your bites, yeah. So it just depends on, just think of the sweet cocktails like, again, your daiquiris, things like that that are always sweet, that are mostly sugar or a simple syrup, versus the savory cocktails, like a martini, like a spritz. And a spritz is just anything that's, it's a Prosecco or sparkling wine with a liqueur added to it and a club soda, something like that. Yeah, so just think of it that way. They're just like they're sweet and savory foods, they're sweet and savory cocktails.
I'm excited to be here. I want to just say thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
I spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico, and at one of these bars that's at an equestrian at a resort, like you just discover it, I saw them serving, I can't remember what it was, but they were serving it with bacon. And so I want to know if you serve any of your drinks with bacon, incorporating the food component. And then I do have one other question. I've been working on a cookbook for a few years, but because I cook without measuring, I struggle and I need help on how do we get it and bring it to life.
Okay. Could you paraphrase that for me again?
Sure. Okay, so she wants to know about any drinks. Did the drink have bacon in it? So it was like a garnish? So do you know of any drinks that incorporate bacon as a garnish?
I have one in here, the Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary would be the most typical.
I love serving that with bacon.
Oh, so she aspires to write a cookbook, but she's not somebody who measures. So what would be your advice to her if how does she begin that
Learn
process?
how to measure.
Yeah.
You have to. The publisher and subsequently the editor, they are not going to take books that aren't, that, you know, where you don't have accurate measures. And they're even going to ask you to put a chart in it so that you can convert everything to, you know, grams and mLs and that sort of thing. Yeah, in all of my books, I think there's a conversion chart in the back of it. Yeah, but it's funny because one, Southern Sugar, this book here, I discovered while I was doing the research for it in South Carolina, the most popular cake that I came across in South Carolina, everybody's mama makes it and nobody's mama has a recipe for it, Japanese fruit cake. I went to no less than 8 different women and watched them make a Japanese fruitcake while I took the notes on it and measured everything that they were doing so that I could get it correct, so that I could put the recipe in this book. So if you ever go to South Carolina, get yourself a piece of Japanese fruitcake.
Nice.
It is absolutely wonderful.
I did get a GoPro. I thought, well, maybe I can record it.
One of the things that our panelist, or the culinarian in the previous session talked about, because she was working with some Italian chefs, and these women weren't necessarily sharing their recipes with her, or they didn't have it written down, and so she made them make it in front of her, and then they were cooking basically freestyle, because they don't weigh or measure anything. And then she would have them put the amount in, say, in the blender or whatever, and then she would take it out and she would be then measuring it. So you could, you know, do it that way where you're cooking the way you do, but then you got to go back and well, you need to start measuring, but cook the way you normally do and then start measuring it. And it really is a way for you to pass on recipes to other people too.
Yeah, because I grew up spending my summers with my grandmother in Mississippi, and she never measured anything. It's a handful of this, a pinch of that. And I say all the time, Grandmama, look at your hands. They're like 3 times the size of mine. You know, that doesn't work for me. A handful of this and a handful of that, and before you know, she has the most incredible biscuits you've ever tasted. You know. Oh, girl, you got it.
Okay, I think we're going to be able to end on that note. Stop making me hungry. So Belinda Smith-Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us.
you.
This is great.
Thank you.
And she is going to be over here signing copies of her book if you would like to purchase it. Okay. So thank you very much. Our next session will be in 30 minutes. This is the last session of the day. I won't say that this is going to be my favorite, but I've been looking forward to this. If you